and welcome to the class. The first thing you need to do is you need to go to A plus students.com to the website. You need to select your subject as math. Your grade level is grade 8th. Okay. So once we are done with this, we go to the topic. The topic for today is data and graph. Data and graph. Okay. And the chapter number is, let me just get the chapter. The chapter number is 24. Chapter number 24. And the lesson number for today is lesson number 9. So you can always log into the website. You go to Maths Grade 8, the chapter and the lesson. And the name of the lesson is Interpret Stem and Leaf, Stem and Leaf Plots. Okay. Plots is basically graph. Stem and leaf is a type of a graph. So today we will be studying stem and leaf graphs, right? So we go to Maths, grade 8, chapter 24. Let's do data and graph, and the lesson number is lesson number 9. Okay. So let's see what happens in a stem and leaf and how do we study a stem and leaf. Let's copy the first question. Okay. So in case of a stem and leaf, what we need to understand is whenever a stem and leaf is given, it would be a comparison graph, right? So I'll just explain the question while we're doing. Lila counted the number of peanuts in each bag of a trial mix. See, this is the stem, this part is the stem, and this part is the leaf, right? So if we say this is written as 5, then this would be 54, 54, 56, 57, 58, and 59, right? It's read in this manner. So it is like there were bags with peanuts in it, and the number of peanuts were counted. Okay. So what happened was stem would be the tens, and the leaf would be the units for us. Okay. So this is how it's counted. Okay. So let's see how many bags had fewer than 60 peanuts. So how many bags were there? See, this information can be written as the first. There were 54, there were 54, 56, 57, 58, and 59, right? Similarly, the second statement can be written as 65. The third statement can be written as 71 peanuts, 74, 76. So in our question over here, we need to find how many bags had fewer than 60 peanuts. So finding the number of bags which had fewer than 60, that means we cannot look at 60 at the tens. We have to go with 5. So these were the bags which had fewer than 60. So how many bags were there in total? What we can do is we can count these leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there were 6 bags which had fewer than 60 peanuts. Okay. 60 peanuts. Because 59 is still less than 60, right? So this is how we count. The stem would be the tens, the leaf would be the units to make up the numbers. Okay. Let's look at another question. The next question says, okay, question number 2. The question number 2 says a shipping company keeps this over here information boxes in each shipment sent out. So this is question number 2. A shipping company keeps track of the number of boxes in each shipment they sent out. These are the boxes over here, right? Boxes and boxes per shipment, a stem and leaf. 26 boxes, 29 boxes, 34 boxes per shipment. This is. So the question says, what is the smallest number of boxes? Okay. If we need to find the smallest number of boxes in a shipment, that would be the smallest number of stem is 2 and the leaf would be 6. How? We can write this thing as there were 26 boxes in the shipment, there were 29, there were 34, 34, 37, there were 47, and so on. Then at the end, we can write there were 82 boxes or 87 boxes in a shipment. So through this, we can say the 26 boxes, 26 boxes, 26 was the smallest number of boxes in a shipment, right? But at the same time, if we change the question, if I would say second part of the question, if this was part A, if I would say the second part of the question, what is the maximum number of boxes in a shipment? So if in this question, if we want to see the maximum and the minimum, right? Welcome to the class. Okay, we are doing stem and leaf. The stem part is always the tens and the leaf would be the units. So 2 in the stem and 6 in the leaf would mean 26. Similarly, 4 in the stem and 7 in the leaf would mean 47. So this question, it was saying different number of shipments. There were different shipments, and this stem and leaf is giving us the number of parcels or the number of boxes in it, right? So 26 was the least number. What should be the greatest number? Can anyone answer? Yes, the greatest would be tens would be this and this. That means the 87 was 87 boxes, right? 87 boxes were the maximum number of boxes in a shipment, right? So we can always find the minimum and the maximum, okay? Let's look at another example and let's try to make up more options out of it. The next question, the question number 3 says, Collins counted number of pair of shoes on sale, okay? I'll just give me a minute. I'll just put down the question on the screen. Okay. If this was the question, let me align this so that we may have more space. Okay. This is question number 3. Colin counted the number of pairs of shoes for sale at each of the shoe store at the mall. So number of shoes per store, stem was six. That means one of the shops had 60 shoes on sale. The other shop had 64, one had 73, 76, 79. But you need to remember that these numbers have to be written in ascending, right? Starting with the smallest, going to the largest, right? Okay, if we need to look at the question, it says how many stores have at least 60 pairs of shoes, but fewer than 80. They cannot be more than 80. At least 60. I'll highlight at least 60, but fewer than 80 pairs, right? It cannot exceed 80. So let's break it up, break down over here. So if we would say, let's look at these numericals over here. They're saying fewer than 80, right? So it cannot be 80. So can this be 60 shoes and 64, right? There were 73 pairs on sale. This was 76 pairs and 79. This was 80 pairs and this was 90 pairs. At least 60 means this can be included, this can be included. Fewer than 80, that means 80 cannot be included, 90 cannot be included. But fewer than 80 is 73, 76, and 79, right? Sorry, they could be, agreed, they could be more than, at least 60 means 60 or more, but fewer than 80 means 79 is the minimum number that we can select, right? So how many stores were there? Because the question is saying how many stores, how many stores. So how many stores were there? One store, two, three, four, and five. There were five stores which had at least 60 pairs, but fewer than 80 pairs of shoes for sale, right? 60 or equals to 60, but less than 80, that is still 79. Okay. But if 7 and 9 is not there, we don't worry about it. Whatever is in the leaf column of 7, the stem is 7, and the leaf, we take all the values over there, because the number with a 7 in the stem means it's a 70. It cannot be equal to 80. We cannot move to the stem of 8, right? Let's look at the next option. Let's look at the next question. Okay. Just give me a minute, please. Okay. I'll just copy down the question. The owner of a nursery plant. It's about flowers over here. Let's see what they're asking us about the flowers. Let's increase the size. Okay. Okay. Let's see what they're asking us. For question number 4, the owner of a plant nursery wrote down the number of roses on each bush, right? So they're asking of us, they're telling that we are calculating the number of roses per bush. So there were 2 bushes which had 11 roses, right? If we read this as 1 and 1, right? So we can say tens and units, tens and unit. There were 2 bushes which had 11, right? And there were some more bushes which had 25 and 25, right? 2 more bushes had 25 and 25, and so on, right? We don't have to do this. I'm just trying to explain what's being done over here. Okay. And the maximum number would be, one bush had 60, the other bush had 67, right? The question says how many bushes have exactly 58. So we need to see the stem of 5, right? This is stem of 5. And 5, the leaf would mean there should be 8 over there. So how many 8s are there? 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So it should mean there were 4 bushes. There are 4 bushes having exactly 58 roses, right? Because the number of roses would differ. This was 51 roses, 58 roses, 58 roses, 58 roses, and 58. So there were 4 bushes which had 58 roses on it. So the answer would be 4 bushes. We just need to read the stem and leaf diagram, right? Stem represents the unit, the tens, and the leaf would represent the units. That's how we read the graph. Okay. Moving on further, let's look at the next question. The next question says a researcher took a number of cows on each farm. They're talking about number of cows on a farm. Let's go to question number 5. Okay. This is question number 5. A researcher recorded the number of cows on each farm in the country, right? On the countryside. How many farms have at least 60 cows? This was question number 5. So it shows cows per farm, right? At least 60. At least 60 means, I'll just write down these values. Let's break them up. Few examples. We're not breaking up everything, right? At least 60 means 60 or more. Agreed? So the first 10 would give us 63, 64, 64, 65, 69, and so on. This would be 70, 70, 72, 72, and so on, right? This would be 90 and 90, right? Agreed? I'm not, this would be 80, 82, 84, 85, and so on till 89, right? So when we look at the stem and leaf diagram for this question, the minimum number is, what is the minimum number of cows? That is 63. And 63 means at least 60. 63 is bigger than 60, right? That means all the numbers would be counted on, right? So what we do simply is we count the number of leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, right? 25 farms are there. That means each farm has more than 60, right? More than 60 cows, because the 63 is the minimum number and that is greater than 60, right? Okay, do we agree? Next question, please help me out. You give me the answer. I'll just copy the question. A vet weighs all the dogs. Okay, let's see. Weight of the dogs. Just enlarge this. Okay. Okay. Vet weighs the weight all the dogs that visited his office last month. The stem and leaf is showing the weight of the dogs. There were 2 dogs which had a weight of 22 pounds, right? See, 22 pounds, one dog, 23 pounds, one dog, 24 pounds, one dog, 26 pounds, one dog, 33 pounds, one dog, 35 pounds, and so on. 74, we can see a repetition over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay. What they're asking us is, what is the weight of the heaviest dog? The heaviest dog should be at the end 70 and 8. So we can say 78 lbs or pounds, right? This is the heaviest, right? 78 pounds, or we use the term pounds. Okay, it's much more convenient. 78 pounds is the heaviest dog. Okay, let's add one more. What is the weight of the lightest dog? Lightest weight of a dog. The lightest weight means we look at the minimum value. Stem 2, and how many options are there? 2, 3, 4. 22 is smaller than 23, right? That means 22 pounds, right? So the question can have multiple variations in it. They can also ask us what was the weight which the maximum number of dogs had, right? So in this particular question, we do not see much repetitions. There is only one repetition, that is 74, 74, and 74. There were 3 dogs which weighed 74 pounds, right? So we can say 74 pounds was the weight 3 dogs had. Maximum number of dogs having the same weight, that is 3 dogs had 74 pounds as the weight, right? So the question can have different requirements, but it would be read always the same way. Okay, moving on to the next question. Let's see. A machine at the candy factory. Okay, just a minute, let me copy this so that we have it on our screen. Okay, just a minute, please. Okay, I'll align this first. Okay. This is question number 7, which says a machine at the candy factory dispenses different number of lemon flavored candies into the various packs, right? Usually it's very like, if there's a factory which is packing candies, right, they usually do it by the weight, right? But there is a small error sometimes. If there are usually 20 candies, it could be 18, it could be 19, or it could be 22, right? It could be a small variation, right? Similarly, in this case, the factory had a small variation in the packaging. The minimum number of the candies per bag would be, what is the minimum number? Can anyone tell me? We look at the smallest number in the stem. What is the smallest number in the stem? The minimum number of candies in the bag would be, yes, 13. Agreed. Because 1 and 3, right? This is the minimum. What should be the maximum? Yes, 88 would be the maximum, right? But what they're asking us the question is, how many bags had exactly 47? So let's look at 47 candies, right? Does any bag have 47 exact candies? See, there were 40 candies, 41 not there, 42 not there, but there was 50 also, right? So we tried, none of the bags had exact 47 candies. There was no bag. The answer is 0, because there is no 47. If we had a 7 over here, then it would have been fine. But we do not have a 7, right? There, in the category of 40s, there is only between 40 to 49, we only have one bag which has 40 candies in it. So 47 is not there. Okay? Agreed? So depending on the question, they're asking exactly 47, then we look search for 47, right? The stem is the tens and the leaf is the units. And if they would say what is the minimum number of candies per bag, so we say 13, because this was, I'll just write it down again, the smallest number was 3. That means 1, that was 1 in 3, that is 13 is the least number of candies in the bag, and the maximum number were 88. So depending on the question, we would find the answer. Okay, let's try the next question. With the next question we have is an architecture student's, the heights of the building. Okay, just a minute, I'll just bring it on the screen. Okay, so if this is the question we have, and they are saying this, okay, so this would be question number 8. An architecture student they're measuring the height of all the buildings in the downtown. Even we find the same statement always at the top of the stem and leaf. The stem and leaf would have a heading that would define what exactly the values are there in the stem and leaf. So that means it's in meters. So if we look at 3 in the stem, there were 2 buildings, right? 33 and 38 meters, right? For 4 in the stem, it would be 41 meters and 48 meters, right? So if I would say shortest building, if I'm making another part, shortest height, what is the shortest height? Can anyone help me out? The shortest height would be the smallest stem. The stem goes from 3 till 9, right? If we are looking at 9, that would be 90. 90 is a bigger number, right? But if we say 30 and the first leaf, so we can we say the shortest height was 33 meters, right? Same way, if I say the tallest building, the tallest building cannot be in the stem of the tallest building. Sorry, I'll just write it again. The tallest building would not be in 30s, right? It cannot be in 40s. It cannot be in 50s. It has to be in the maximum stem. So when we look at the maximum stem, that is 9, right? So 9 had 2 zeros. That means there were 2 buildings which were 90 meters. If this would have been a 6, then we say 96 is the tallest. But it's still a 0. We say 90 meters is the tallest building. Moving on to the main question, it says, how many buildings are at least 37 but less than 76, right? So let's see how we can do this question. They are saying at least 37, right? Is 30, okay, when we break it down, let's break this down. Okay, let's try to find the accurate heights over here. We'll just try to label. This would be 33 and 38, right? This one and 48 meters. 53 and 59. You don't have to write these. We can always count by the leaf. I'm just explaining how it's done, okay? This would be 60. This is 73, 77, and 78, right? Less than 76. It cannot be greater than 76. So we cannot take this. We cannot take this, right? Less than 76 meters. At least 37 meters. The 33 cannot be included, right? So what we can say is we can count the heights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we can say there are 7 buildings in the range of 37 to 75 because it's less than 76, right? So that means 75 would be included. So we read the stem and leaf diagram depending on what the question is. Okay? Agreed? Any questions till now? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. Let's see what the question number 9 is asking us. When you click onto the next, you'll have the same question on your screen. Okay. Okay, it's very similar question, but this time it's about the bricks. Let's see what they're asking us with the bricks. Question number 9 is here. Just a moment, please. I'll just align them. Let me just align this question. Okay. Question number 9, it says the architect student counted the number of bricks in each building in his neighborhood, right? So this is bricks per building. 11 bricks, 14 bricks, 15 bricks, and 16. 21 bricks, 21 bricks, 6 bricks, right? How many houses were there with 40 bricks? None, right? None of the houses. We cannot say 0. We cannot use a 0 in the leaf because there is no number. That means there was no house which had 40 bricks on it, right? So if we move to the question says, how many buildings have exactly 65? It has to be exact 65. Do we have 6 in the stem? Yes. Do we have a leaf of 5? Yes. So how many repetitions are there? Only single. So there is a single house, or we can say there is one building. There is one building with exactly 65 bricks, right? It's just an assumed question, right? Just to give you smaller values. This could be 65,000. This could have been a very different number. It's just an assumption for the question, okay? Moving on ahead. Any questions up till now? Right. 65 we see one time only, right? So we just say 1, okay? Moving on further, the next question we have is, okay, tactics. It's about a doctor visiting. Okay. The next question would say, okay, question number 10. Dr. Lopez weighed all the children who recently visited her office, right? Okay. How many children weighed at least 50 pounds but less than 90? At least 50 means, let's break it down over here. Let's do some columns over here and let's see these values. Okay. Okay. If you want to see these values, this would be 47, 48, 52, 57, 60, 63, 67, right? 70 did not have any value, 83 and 90, right? So the question says at least 50 pounds. So 47 cannot be included, 48 cannot be included, right? But it has to be less than 90 pounds. 90 cannot be included. So how many values were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Which can also be counted over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we can say, how many children were there? How many children were there who weighed between this range? There were 6 children, right? There were 6 children who weighed between at least 50 but less than 90 pounds, right? Okay, moving on to the next question. Let's try one more, then we go to the test. Okay. The next question says a museum curator, okay, has a paintings. Let's see what they're talking about the paintings. If we have this question over here, that would be question number 11. A museum curator counted the number of paintings in each exhibit in the art museum, right? How many exhibits have at least 60 paintings? At least 60. It could be at least or it could be at most, right? First we do at least, then we'll do part A, at least, and then we'll try at most. How many exhibits have at most 60 paintings, right? So we'll look at both the options. It could be exactly 60 also, right? See, what is the minimum number of paintings? 10, right? What is the maximum number of paintings? 86. So we need to find at least 60, right? At least 60. This would be 64 included, 64 included, right? 71, at least 60, more than 60, right? 73 more than 60, 74 more than 60, 84 more than 60, 85 more than 60, and 86 more than 60. So how many were those? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 exhibits, right? Had at least 60 paintings, right? But if I would say have at most 60, maximum they could have 60, not more than 60, then they can have 10, they can have 13, they can be 16, 27, 37, 37, 39. 37 is still, because at most 60 means you stop at 60, you can take the numbers below the 60, right? So 39 was below 60. 40, 42, 47, and 51. You cannot go into 60s category. So we count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 exhibits had at most 60 paintings. That means 60 or less than 60 paintings, right? So depending on the question, we would study the stem and leaf graph, right? So whatever is the requirement, we take that into a careful consideration over here. Okay, let's do the test. Let's try a few questions from the test. And the remaining questions from the test, you need to complete those, okay? Please do those. And I'll copy the first question. You start the test, you'll have the same question as well, right? Please do begin together. So we'll do this question. A shipping company keeps tracks of the number of boxes sent in each shipment. Okay, so let's put down this question over here. This is our question number 1 from the test. Okay, what is the smallest number of boxes per shipment? So we have two options. I'll give you some time to study. A shipping company keeps track of the number of boxes in each shipment. A shipping company is sending a lot of shipments, right? So each shipment can have different number of boxes, right? So the maximum number could be 87 because 8 is in the stem and 7 was the biggest number in the leaf for 8. Or they're asking us what is the smallest number of boxes in a shipment? Option A or option B? It should be, yes, thank you. It should be option A because 2 is the stem and the leaf's smallest number is 6, right? Because the leaf had 26 and 29. We cannot take 29, we can take 26. That is option number A. Thank you for the answer, right? Good work. Let's click on option A. Yes, it shows correct answer. We move on to the next question. And the next question says candies into the bags. Okay. We have another set of options over here. Let's see. In the next question, the question number 2, it says a machine at the candy factory dispenses different number of lemon flavored candies into the bag. Okay. And we have been asked how many bags had exactly 47. Okay. So how many bags had exactly 47? Option A is 10 bags. Option B is 0 bags, right? So what should be the correct answer? We need to look for 47. Can we find a 47? How do we look for a 47? We have a stem and we have a leaf, right? The stem is always the tens part. So for this would be stem and 7 would be leaf. Let's look at 47. Do we have a 47? We have a 4. Yes, we have a stem 4. But we have a 0 in the leaf, right? That means 40 candies could be there. The next one is 50. Do we see a 7 over here? No, we do not have a 7, right? That means, yes, there were no bags. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. That means 0 bags. There were no bags which had 47 candies in it, right? Thank you. Moving on to the next, we click on 0. Okay. I'll copy the next one for our ease. Butterscotch candies. Okay, they're still talking about a different question with the candies, right? Let's look at question number 3. Okay. The question number 3 says, a candy factory, butterscotch candies were packed into bags of different sizes, right? How many bags had 86 candies in it? Exactly 86. Option number A, option number B. Can you give me the answer, please? I'll wait for you. The stem has an 80, right? We can find an 8 in the stem. Let's look at the stem and then we'll consider the leaf. Because this was 86, we have 8 in the stem. And how many for 86? That means the leaf should have, since it's 86, the leaf should have the unit number. Agreed? Yes, there is only 81. We do not have 86, right? We do not have this as an option. We do not have 86 as an option because 6 is not there. That means having a bag which has exactly 86 butterscotch candies would be how many bags? Yes, 0 bags. Good. But we need to pick up the correct option. Since it's an MCQ, that means the correct option is A or B. Can anyone give me the answer? Yes, option number A is the correct answer. Agreed? Because option A says that there are 0 bags which have exactly 86 candies. Okay? So we click onto the test, 0 bags, and it shows us that it's the correct answer. And we move on to the next question. Okay? The next question says that, I'll just give me a second. I'll just copy it on the screen. The next question says that question number 4 from the test says, Professor Coleman released the results of yesterday's quiz, right? So these are the results, and this is the question, and these are the two options we have, A and B. Let's do it together. I'll give you time to try to solve it. The STEM has the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That means we have the scores from the minimum. Oh, I cannot give the answer. I just read the question. So they are asking what is the lowest score. Lowest score, I was about to give the answer. It's very easy. STEM, look at the STEM. STEM will give you the tens, right? But if we go with 9 or 8, 8 is still bigger than 2, right? That means 81, 85 would be bigger than 72 or 74. So we go towards the smaller number. So what is the smallest number possible? Because they're asking us for the smallest score, right? Yes, we look at STEM 2. Thank you. We look at STEM 2, and if they were more than one number, so we will pick like from the leaf, we will always pick the smallest number, right? But in this case, how many numbers are there? There is one leaf. That is 5. That means, yes, thank you. That means, yes, 25 is the correct answer, and great, it's option A. Thank you for answering. That is option A. Okay, thank you so much. Let's try another example, another question, but don't forget to mark this in your test, okay, so that the questions from the test are also completed at the same time, okay? And at the end, you will have a better idea, you'll have a better understanding what you understood from this topic. And if there are any concerns, you can always go back to the lesson, study the lesson, look at the examples, and complete the test, right? Moving on to question number 5. Professor Bradshaw informed the students of their scores in the middle term exam. Okay, these are the two options he gave, and it shows a stem and leaf exam scores. How many students, and it says how the question says how many students scored exactly 37 points, right? You need to look at exact 37. So what would be exact 37? How many? Okay, how many school students had scores in their 30s? How many students? I'm not asking about the scores. I'm asking how many students had their scores in the 30s? Yes, thank you. 5 students had their scores in the 30s, right? Thank you. Because this was 30, 31, 33, 36, 36, and 39, right? So these were the 5 students who got their scores in the 30s, right? Out of these 5 students who got their scores in the 30s, how many students score exactly 37? Do we see any 7 in the leaf? Yes. The answer is correct. Your answer is 0 students, right? Because we do not see a 7 in the leaf, right? So if there would have been a 7, then the count would change. Okay. And what should be the final answer? See, we know the answer, But since if it's a single line answer where you need to give the answer, you write 0 students. But if it's an MCQ, then you need to tell exactly if the first option or the second option, whichever the option is correct for us, right? So which option should be correct? Yes, thank you so much. That means option A is the correct option for us because it says 0 students. Agreed? We are done with 1/4 of the work. We are done with 5 questions. Another 15 are left. Please do try those questions, okay? Yes, thank you, Liam. 0 students and option A, right? That would be the correct option, right? Please do the remaining questions. Just go through the video again. If you have any problems, just do the remaining questions and practice, right? Thank you so much. And you can always leave a comment if there is any concern. I'll look back into it, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and best of luck. Have a nice day. Take care.